Happy September, folks, and welcome back to #AskGSM, episode 562 here today for Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So we'll get right into it here with the YouTube questions, starting with Jordan B. His question was, what do you think Natalya's legacy will be when she retires? I feel her legacy will be her being a good worker in the ring. I also think she will be mostly remembered for helping train many female wrestlers in the business. I mean, exactly what you said. Natalya, I give her a lot of shit because she's been stagnant as a character for so long. And I've always made this comment, and I think it's true, and it's nothing against her necessarily, that, I mean, she's obviously very, very talented. Natalya is great in the ring. But she also came up during a period where there were not many great workers like her, and she wasn't great 16 years ago. Like, she was okay, but she obviously gradually improved over time and whatnot, as anyone would, ideally, obviously. But she was also a lot better than 95% of the women that WWE had back in 08, 09, 2010, 2011. And she was perceived as the best worker of the bunch. I honestly kind of put her in the same category as Dolph Ziggler when he was still in WWE, where he was a lot better than a majority of the roster and a majority of the wrestlers that WWE had when he was first kind of coming up in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, and people perceived him to be the best wrestler on the roster, or at least one of them. And he was. Dolph was great. But as time went on, as we get into like the 2015s and 2016s and 2017s, and WWE started recruiting a lot of people that were as good, if not better than Dolph, then he wasn't really perceived as being one of the best workers in the company anymore. You know, I would say the exact same thing about Natalya, where she's obviously still quite good. I was at that Raw where she had that match with Io Sky a couple of months back. I think it was part of the Queen of the Ring tournament, the first round matchup, and they had a really, really good match. Natalya kind of gets slept on for her abilities in the ring because she's been around for so fucking long. And there's also just a lot of people that have eclipsed her in the ring and are better now and feel fresher because they haven't been here for 16 years or however long she's been in the company on TV, which I think is 16 years. I'm pretty sure she debuted on TV back in 2008. But not only what we see on television, like she's won championships, she's been tag team champion, SmackDown Women's Champion, Divas Champion. You know, she's held championships over the course of her career, but I think her greatest contribution to the business is exactly what you said. She has helped so many women behind the scenes, probably to a point where we don't even know about it. Like, Natalya is not the type of performer person to be like, oh, look at this person that I helped create and helped train and progress their abilities. And I think that goes for probably 80%, if not more, of that women's roster, whether they had experience or not. Like, we're talking people like Bayley and Sasha, who came into WWE over a decade ago with experience, but Natalya helped them along, whether it be on television working with them in NXT or even on the main roster. She helped a lot of those people have their best matches early on before getting better. And that's really only the surface. That really only scratches the surface, I think, of what she's done on television in terms of helping the women. I think a lot of her greatest contributions have been behind the scenes in fighting for some of these women, helping them train. And she's not someone that's going to rock the boat either. Go to WWE and say, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. I mean, she had a fucking farting gimmick for a while there. Granted, at a period where no one was really sticking up for creative because it was just awful and no one really seemingly said anything or didn't want to do, or they just did what WWE wanted them to do. If this was nowadays, it might be a different story, or even a couple of years ago. But back at that point, no one was really standing up for what WWE was doing creatively and how bad it was. But she really has attempted to make the most of everything that company has ever given her. And again, I don't really give her enough credit because I do shit on her for just being boring and stale, and she comes across as obnoxious sometimes in the show. But as a person, I've heard nothing but sweet things as far as how she's been behind the scenes and helping people, which is great to see. So I think that more than anything will probably be her legacy in pro wrestling. When she inevitably goes into the Hall of Fame someday, I'm sure all of that will be brought up by every single person that she's ever worked with on TV, but primarily behind the scenes as well. And she can also be a producer/trainer. And who's to say that she's not already? I mean, she probably already kind of took on that role unofficially previously. But I'm thinking like when she's actually done in the ring, and she'll probably be back on television next Monday. I think they're going to be in Calgary, Canada. She's obviously Canadian. We haven't seen her on the show in like 3-4 months. It's been a nice break. I don't really care to see her back on the show. But I'm not going to say. I know she re-signed a couple of months ago, so she's not going anywhere. But I think at some point, if not now, she will also simultaneously take up the role of like Sarah Amato. I think, is she still there in NXT? I'm pretty sure she is. Of what she has in NXT, probably doing that either in NXT alongside her, in place of her, or on the main roster instead. Because I think Sarah Amato is largely influential in the developmental system in NXT and not on the main roster. I mean, she has an influence on the main roster women, but I don't think she works with them behind the scenes on the main roster. I think she's exclusive to NXT to my knowledge. Micah does it from YouTube. Their first question was, should WWE book CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a Buried Alive match, Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan First Blood, Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes Hell in a Cell, and do all of these matches at Bad Blood? That would be so incredibly excessive. Definitely not. I think you can get away with doing one, maybe two, but I think doing all three is just unnecessary. It also kind of lessens the impact of those matches, which is why I enjoyed some installments of Extreme Rules. But when you make every single match, and not every match, like in WWE, Extreme Rules was like, oh, falls count anywhere, no disqualification, no holds barred, and a lot of the matches were all the same shit anyway. But like when you make every single match a stipulation match, it makes each match mean less more. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't even make sense. When you make every single match a gimmick match, it makes each of those matches mean less. Not mean less, or mean more or less, whatever the fuck I said. I just don't really think that's a great idea. If you want to do two, because like Rhea and Liv, Rhea had said on Monday's Raw this past week, I want a rematch for the Women's World Championship. I pinned Liv Morgan at Bash in Berlin. I want a rematch. So that makes sense to run that back and maybe give them a stipulation match. If they want to save that for like Survivor Series or Crown Jewel or whatever, that would also be fine, or just do it on TV. I was going to say the first Raw on Netflix, but that's not until January, so probably not. I don't know if we still need Rhea and Liv going at it in January after already feuding for pretty much the entire year and then some. But still, at some point a stipulation match for those two would make sense. If you want to do it on that show, that would be fine. Someone did say, and I was already thinking this, but someone brought it up to me the other day, what about a First Blood match for Punk and Drew? I think Punk and Drew have been earmarked for a Hell in a Cell match on that show for months, since the initial discussions of doing a Bad Blood pay-per-view. I mean, how can you not do a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood, where at the first ever installment of Bad Blood back in 1997, on that exact fucking day of October 5th, we had the first ever Hell in a Cell match. There has to be a Hell in a Cell match on that show. And I think it's got to be Punk and Drew. Now, First Blood would also be cool. I don't know if WWE will ever do First Blood again, but it's honestly not as out of the realm of possibility as it would have been even a year ago, because we've seen a lot, honestly, by WWE standards, a lot of blood on WWE TV, whether it be real or manufactured or whatever. In a lot of big matches, we saw it in Cody and AJ at Clash of the Castle. They did it on TV with Cody and Rock. I think they did it at Mania itself, if I'm not mistaken. They've done blood quite a bit on WWE TV this year, and maybe even with the women as well. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if you could do First Blood with Rhea and Liv. I mean, why discriminate? I see why the fuck not. I think it'd be cool. I would be down for those two matches being in those respective stipulations. I would not do Orton and Cody inside Hell in a Cell. For their first ever match on pay-per-view, that doesn't even make sense. You got to build to that, obviously. I know they have history, but that would just be way too soon. Even Cody and Owens, I know they're coming off of a match at Bash in Berlin. If they run it back at Bash, or rather at Bad Blood, a lot of B-name pay-per-views, Backlash, Bash in Berlin, Bad Blood, a lot of B pay-per-views. If they were to run it back at this upcoming show, you can do a stip, but I feel like Hell in a Cell is too excessive. Even that feud doesn't feel like it's worthy of being inside the cell. Owens hasn't even turned heel yet. I don't even think he is. I think if anyone's going to turn heel, it would be Randy Orton. You could turn both, but I think of the two, Orton's more likely. I know what we saw on Saturday or Sunday, whenever the show was. I think it was Saturday. No Mercy was on Sunday. I think Owens is kind of teasing the heel turn, leaning towards turning heel. So you could do a stip match. I would kind of lean away from that right now. I would stray away from doing that at the moment. Buried Alive, I don't mind. We haven't seen a whole lot of those over the years. I wouldn't do all three stipulation matches on the same show. I just don't think that's necessary. 2, I would be fine with. 1 is probably ideal, but if you want to do 3, that just seems like too much. So my idea is do Punk and Drew in a Hell in a Cell match. Rhea and Liv in a stip, I don't know what it would be. First Blood would be perfect. If you wanted to do Punk and Drew inside a First Blood match, and then Rhea and Liv in a Hell in a Cell match, honestly, no complaints out of me. But I feel like we haven't seen the end of Rhea and Liv. I don't think the end of it will be at Bad Blood. That's the thing. I think Punk and Drew is definitely, and it should definitely end at Bad Blood. So whatever match they have is the blow-off. Rhea and Liv, where they really have like a Hell in a Cell match and then have another match after that. I know they've done that before in WWE, and it's fucking dumb. It should be the blow-off. It shouldn't be a transitional match. Like they did it with Orton and Cena back in 2009, and they went on to have like an Iron Man match later on that month. It was just too much. And the matches were good. They worked well together, obviously. But I never want to see, again, another Hell in a Cell match used as a transitional match before going on to have like a fucking regular match of the subsequent pay-per-view. It just makes no sense. Anyway, his second question was, what do you think of the idea of McIntyre kidnapping CM Punk's dog, Larry, and that sets up the Bad Blood match? You know, I honestly laughed when I read your question when I was writing it down earlier in the document. That's fucking funny. I mean, because I've seen people share the clips in the last couple days. This is not what you're implying, or at least I don't think. The Al Snow Big Show thing, or Al Snow Big Boss Man, where Al Snow, like, was it? No, I'm sorry. Big Boss Man, I think, took Al Snow's dog. Or were the roles reversed? I don't remember. But either way, someone took someone's dog and cooked it up. And that was like the setup for wasn't their Kennel in Hell match or whatever the fuck it was? That was pretty stupid. Probably the most disgusting angle that WWE has ever done. Like, obviously, they didn't actually kill the dog. But in WWE canon, I think that dog is dead. And then Big Boss Man fed it to, I believe, Al Snow on WWE television. So if that's the WWE canon, that has got to be the most fucking twisted and sickest and twisted thing I've ever heard or seen on WWE television. I know that's not what you're implying. They will never do that again, nor should they. Punk's dog is not dying for real. I don't think Drew needs to kidnap Larry. I don't see them doing that. I just feel like that would be too goofy. Honestly, though, I will say this. I know Larry's name was on the bracelet. He's over in WWE canon right now. But so is AJ. AJ's name was also on that bracelet. I am shocked that in the last 3 months we have not seen a single appearance from AJ. Punk was taken out in a stretcher on Raw this week. Granted, he was taken out in a stretcher back in June, too, and then he popped up soon after in Money in the Bank or Clash of the Castle, whatever the fuck it was. I think it was Money in the Bank. He came back a couple weeks later. I really do think Punk should have AJ come out in his absence. AJ should come out in his absence and confront Drew McIntyre. You know, it's not going to lead to Drew's wife coming out. It's not going to lead to his wife coming out and confronting AJ. I don't really know what the end game there would be because Drew's not going to assault AJ, obviously. But I just want to hear AJ's music again. I just want to see her on WWE television. If she's not coming back for a full-on run, what is wrong with her making just an appearance on WWE television? She has been mentioned so much through this goddamn bracelet that's now broken, thankfully, in WWE canon. I saw Punk post a picture of him having the real bracelet. They didn't break that one, which is nice. But anyway, the idea of AJ coming out and confronting Drew would be cool. They can kill time with the feud. I don't think Punk's going to be out until Bad Blood. He'll probably be out for, hopefully 2 weeks. If he's back this coming Monday, that's just fucking stupid. But they need to have him back on TV soon to set up the match for the pay-per-view and set up the stipulation and everything else. So AJ coming out would be ideal. The dog being kidnapped, probably not. But AJ coming out would be cool. No L from Facebook. Their first question was, do you see Giulia winning the NXT Women's Championship on the NXT debut on the CW? I do. I don't know if I said this last week or if I was just thinking about it, but I've been thinking about this for a while now, that Giulia would be not only facing Roxanne, but beating Roxanne for that championship, not at Halloween Havoc next month, but on the CW debut show on October 1st. I just feel like that makes the most sense. It's going to be a big show. They're in a stadium, not a stadium, God forbid. They're in an arena for NXT in Chicago. They're not at Full Sail or the PC or whatever. They're going to be in a different atmosphere, a different building. They're going to need to sell tickets, and I think Roxanne and Giulia is a big attraction for that brand. It is easily the biggest women's match they can do currently in NXT. Now, she could wrestle before then. I just finished NXT earlier. I saw that she attacked Chelsea Green. They could have her beat and face squash Chelsea Green on TV on NXT TV one of these weeks. The CW show isn't for another month, so they want to kill time with that. That's fine. But yeah, Giulia is going to be a big deal. I don't even just see her facing Roxanne on that show, which they seem to confirm at the end of NXT last night. I absolutely see her beating Roxanne for that championship. To have her lose and then win the rematch at like Halloween Havoc would be just stupid. Just have her win it in the first time around. I feel like that would make the most sense. Your second question on a related note, where would you rank Roxanne Perez's NXT Women's Championship reign so far in the history of NXT Women's Champions so far? That's a good question. I pulled up, let's see. Well, I did pull up and now it's gone. I closed the tab. NXT Women's Champions, because there's been so many, I couldn't even really write it down as far as where I would put it. Let's see, NXT Women's Champions. Just to make this quick, I know that the title's 10 years old, but there really haven't been that many champions, so I could do this probably pretty quickly. She's had a better run than Paige, the first ever champion. I like Paige's first run. She was champion for a long time, but her run has been better than Paige's. Charlotte, she was champion for a while. Charlotte was a great champion. She had those matches when Natalya where she won it. She faced Sasha during that run. She faced Bayley during that run, and then she lost it the following February. It would probably be on par with Charlotte. Charlotte really was instrumental in putting that women's division on the map during that period. So Charlotte, Charlotte's one of the best NXT women's champions they've had for that first run, not the second. Sasha's run in 2015 was great. She had that great match with Becky, and she finished her run with Bayley. So it's on par with Sasha's. Bayley's was also great. She was champion in August through April. She had a lot of great defenses in that time. Asuka, I think, is the best NXT Women's Champion they've had. She was champion for almost 2 years. She had those great matches with Ember Moon and Bayley. I would say Asuka's probably number one. She had a better run than Ember Moon, who wasn't champion for that long. You know, Shayna was champion twice, and those runs were good. I think Roxanne Perez's runs are better than Shayna's. Shayna was champion for longer, but I feel like Shayna's run, like she had a lot of good matches. Roxanne's matches have been better. They've had more energy. She's cut better promos. I would say she's probably had a better run than Shayna. That might be a bold take. That might be a hot take, a bold opinion, but I feel like both of Shayna's runs, I feel like Roxanne has eclipsed that. She had a better run than Kairi, who was only champion for 2 months. Rhea was only champion for like 3 months, so she didn't really have much of a run with it. She had a better run than her. Definitely a better run than Charlotte the second time. Io is champion for a long time. Io Shirai, Io Sky, whatever you want to call her. I think Io probably had a better run. She was champion for longer. She also had those great matches with Rhea on TV. She faced Dakota Kai on a takeover. She ended up losing it to Raquel, and that was a really good match as well. She was in War Games as champion. She had a lot of good matches on TV. So Io would probably also be up there for one of the best runs. She had a better run than Raquel. Mandy Rose was champion for a long time. The thing with Mandy Rose, though, I don't know. I just feel like Mandy's championship run was great, and we talked about that here on the show, but I feel like Roxanne's run has been better as far as in-ring standpoint. From an in-ring standpoint, Roxanne's has been better by a pretty wide margin. Roxanne was already champion back in 2022 through April. This run's far better than that one. Indy was barely champion. She was only champion for a month. She's had a better run than Tiffany. Becky was champion for a month, but did a lot with that championship. She was champion for like 6 weeks and had a great run with it, but her championship run has been better than that, I think. It was also better than Lyra. So, yeah, she's probably in the top 5 or 6. She's not the best NXT Women's Champion they've ever had. I would put her run probably below Charlotte's, Bayley's, maybe above Sasha's. I feel like the best champion they ever had was Asuka, and Io's also up there. So Roxanne's probably like 5 or 6, and she's not escaping the CW debut as champion. I'll tell you that right now. But she will probably go down as one of the better women's champions NXT's ever had. She's had a great run. Great character development. She's done well as a heel, even though she's a natural babyface. She's brought the best out of Jada Parker, Lola Vice, gave them their best matches. Also had some good matches on TV with Chelsea Green. She had the great match with Jordan Grace back at the Battleground show in June, the cross-promotional match for the NXT Women's Championship. The match in which she won it from Lyra back at Stand and Deliver was really, really good. The Giulia match should be great, I'm sure. She had a match on TV recently with Thea Hale that was really good. She had that triple threat on TV back in April or May with Lyra and Tatum, which was also very good. So, yeah, she's done really, really well as the NXT Women's Champion. I think she also faced and beat Natalya as well, and that was also a very good match. So, yeah, Roxanne's certainly up there as far as one of the best NXT Women's Champions they've ever had. Not like top 3. If she held it for longer, then maybe, but from what we've gotten so far, it's certainly up there. Next question comes from the Average Grunt from Twitter. Their first question was, he says, here's a question inspired by AEW's use of Wayward Son in the Final Countdown. If you got to pick one song from the 70s or 80s to come out to as an entrance theme, which would you choose? I think I would go with Separate Ways by Journey. That's a great question. Obviously, notwithstanding Cult of Personality, because that's CM Punk's song, but that's probably my favorite song ever because of Punk. If we don't want to repeat that, that would just be a lame answer. I came up with 3 answers, actually. I think all 3 songs are from the 70s and 80s. And I don't even really know how they would work as entrance themes. But, maybe with the right vibe or the right character or gimmick, it could work, I guess. I just think all 3 songs are great, and they were on my mind immediately. I'm sure there's many more, but these are the 3 ones that came to mind. Jump On It. I forgot the name of the band, but Jump On It's a great song. It's in, isn't it in Happy? No, it's in Dodgeball when Ben Stiller approaches the front door. Jump on it. Jump on. Just a catchy song. Love Machine, another Ben Stiller movie, Heavyweights. I just rewatched that recently. It's a great summer classic every single year. It's in the part of the movie where they have the dance between the fat camp boy kids and then the girls that come to visit, and they started dancing. I'm just a love machine. That's such a good song too. Ballroom Blitz is my third choice. Again, I can't really choose between the 3. I just threw 3 out there just for the fuck of it. They were just on my mind. A Ballroom Blitz by the Sweets or whatever it is. It's in Daddy Daycare. It was in the trailer for Suicide Squad. It was in Wayne's World as well. The end of the movie. Ballroom Blitz. It's just a great song. Any 3 of those songs would be great. I mean, you really can't go wrong with most songs from the 80s because they're all excellent. The song that Brooks Jensen used, and it did not fit him at all because he has like zero aura, so to speak, but the song that he used on NXT, it wasn't on NXT, but it was like in a fucking dark match. It went viral last year. Was really cool. I thought that was a perfect wrestling song. People can sing along to it. I forgot the name of the song, but I would know it if I heard it. He has like a knockoff version of that now on NXT, which is pretty funny. But that song would also clearly, from that entrance that we saw that leaked online, would make for a great entrance theme as well, for sure. Your second question. So in Japan, AEW is partnered with the New Japan Pro Wrestling in Stardom, while WWE is working with Noah and Marigold. In Mexico, AEW is CMLL, WWE is AAA. Does WWE have AAA, though? I don't think they do. I know they took Stephanie Vaquer from CMLL. Are they working with AAA? I don't know if they are. I know AEW is working with AAA. Or they were. I don't know. But anyway, your question goes on. In North America, WWE NXT specifically has an agreement with TNA, while AEW doesn't currently have a relationship with anyone. Should Tony Khan try to form a long-term agreement with a promotion like MLW or NWA in response? No, I don't really think it's necessary. I think, because they don't really need to. What's the benefit there? I guess you could say the same thing about like CMLL, and New Japan has its benefits more than CMLL. When you use the CMLL guys on AEW TV, a lot of them are very talented. I really don't give a fuck about that involvement at all. I don't watch CMLL. I don't go out of my way to watch their shows. I'll watch the New Japan stuff. Even in AAA, like, they worked. AEW, to their credit, I know the NXT thing right now is awesome. I talked about NXT TNA last week and how great that working relationship is. AEW has worked with pretty much almost every single promotion. They've never really worked with WWE, obviously. There's been some soft agreements there, like WWE asked them for footage from Danielson and Jericho, maybe even Big Show for that John. Remember that whole thing? It was before Vince actually got ousted. It was after the allegations were out, but this was under his watch. When they got the permission from AEW to get congratulation videos from Bryan Danielson, Jericho, and Big Show. How fucking weird was that? Remember that whole thing? And they also let Jericho, who was in AEW, do the Stone Cold podcast, which was on the network. And they haven't really acknowledged or done anything with AEW since then, which was kind of crazy. That was on the WWE network. But anyway, That was all a couple years ago. So aside from WWE, AEW has worked with all the promotions you mentioned. I mean, even the ones that, Marigold know. I think Noah they've worked with, I believe. I might be wrong, but years ago, I feel like they worked with Noah in a certain capacity. I know they've worked with Stardom, obviously, recently. New Japan's an obvious one. But TNA they worked with back in 2020, 2021. They've already worked with TNA. It honestly works better it didn't really benefit AEW at all. It really benefited TNA more. The TNA crossover on the main roster isn't really necessary because Raw and SmackDown don't need it. NXT does. And I've talked about this before as far as the benefit that NXT gets out of the TNA working relationship. TNA will benefit probably regardless because they could use the buzz and working with any company that's bigger than them. And also smaller companies. They've been working with New Japan. I mean, New Japan's not smaller, but they've worked with AAA and CMLL to get their talents on TNA TV over the years and stuff like that. They've worked with Noah and promotions like that, Wrestle One, stuff like that. And it's worked out well for them. They don't really lose anything TNA doesn't from working. Like even the AEW working relationship, I said the NXT one so far has been better, which it has been. But even the AEW one, they did benefit from. I think the NXT one has benefited them more, but even the AEW one was cool while it lasted. NXT has a lot more to gain from working with TNA and getting more buzz and using their talent than AEW does. AEW is such a stacked roster, and AEW or NXT has a good roster as well, but a lot of those men and women are inexperienced. They need people like Jordan Grace, Joe Hendry, who's been around for a little while, the Rascals and people like that to work with, not only to kind of gain credibility from beating and facing, like Rosemary's been on TV the last couple of weeks. She lost to Kalani Jordan and Tatum Paxley in the last 2 weeks. Did they really gain that much from beating Rosemary? No, but it is cool to see them working with her, and it does benefit them to, be working with a veteran who's been around for a while. But anyway, AEW, I don't really think at this current juncture, maybe in 2020 with the whole belt collector storyline, I don't know if they really benefited, but it was cool to see them working with Impact/TNA. Nowadays, it would be cool, but I don't know if it would really benefit them in any real meaningful way when there's already a lot of people on their shows they're not currently using. Working with MLW, NWA would even be less beneficial. They have almost, and I like MLW, and NWA has some decent stars as well. There's even less benefit there. I mean, they worked with MLW early on. I think Brian Pillman Jr. was in MLW when he first signed with AEW. He was, or MJF as well. He was also starting out in MLW. I think he continued to work in MLW through like the first year of AEW's existence, even while in AEW. So they've done stuff with MLW before. Nothing major, but they've used some of their talent and stuff like that. NWA, I mean, that's how they fucking got Thunder Rosa on the show. Thunder Rosa defended the NWA Women's World Championship, the World Women's Championship, on Power a number of times back in early 2021. They also used some of their talent and kind of collaborated with them on the Empower pay-per-view, which was actually a great fucking show. And then I know Tony Khan went on record by saying that Billy Corgan never really thanked him for it publicly, which he should have, because that show probably would not have been put on without him, and they haven't really worked together since. But there was some real benefit there in having some of those guys and girls, cross over, and they did some cool shit there as well. But yeah, at this current juncture, with AEW being as big as it is, they're on to bigger and better things. They don't really have anything to gain from having an active working relationship with an MLW or an NWA or a TNA. NXT would. I mean, the thing with the MLW and NWA, there's no people there, I don't think currently. Even MLW, they lost Jacob Fatu, they lost Hammerstone. They have some talent there, definitely. Matt Riddle was already in WWE, so they don't really need to bring him in. He got fired for a reason. None of those people popping up in NXT would really create a buzz. The talent would benefit from working with them, but it wouldn't really create a buzz. That's why I've been asked before, could we ever see an NXT-NWA relationship? I think the closest that we could have come to that was maybe 5 years ago, and Billy Corgan had said that WWE was interested in putting Power on the WWE network. But even at that point, NXT already had the TV deal on USA. They were, a very hot product in late 2019, early 2020. And they didn't really need the Nick Aldises and Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingstons. AEW ended up taking that talent, but they didn't really need the crossover then. They could now. If NWA was as hot then or now as it was then yeah. But it's not. And MLW, same thing. I think the TNA NXT stuff has been great. AEW doesn't really need an American partner. Maybe if it was necessary for whatever reason. But I wouldn't force it. They could kind of focus on their own product and continue to build that up. I wouldn't complain if they did, because I think seeing these companies work together is awesome, but it's not really necessary, if that makes sense. At noob_n_co TV, their first question was, or their only question for this week, they said, what are your thoughts on Giulia's debut on NXT No Mercy? My reaction was crazy, and I hope that she'll be great on the NXT Women's Division, and I don't want WWE to replicate Asuka's success in WWE. Giulia's her own person. I wouldn't really worry about, what does that even mean? Asuka's won everything there is to win in WWE. So if Giulia could even experience a shred of that success in WWE, that's a great thing. But they're not going to try to replicate the Asuka build-up of having her. Maybe they could. Maybe they could have her go undefeated for fucking 2-3 years. It's possible. I don't think they would. Asuka was just a completely different beast. When she arrived in 2015, again, same thing like I was saying with Natalya, just kind of on steroids. When Asuka arrived, they had some very good women in the NXT Women's Division, but no one was on, they've said it in storyline, but it's true. No one was on Asuka's level. No one was on the level of Asuka. No one was ready for Asuka back in 2015. They had Bayley, they had the 4 horsewomen. But beyond that, Alexa Bliss was just kind of getting good. She was just improving. Carmella wasn't very good back then. Nia Jax had just debuted. She wasn't very good back then. Dana Brooke wasn't very good. They had some women that they were working on, but they weren't on the level of Asuka. Even Emma, who was very, very good, was not on the level of Asuka. She was just a completely different beast. Eva Marie, give me a fucking break, Giulia, they have the talent now. NXT's kind of in a weird full circle phase right now where a lot of those great women's talents that were dominating that division are now on the main roster, so they're kind of lacking in that experience, aside from Roxanne and a few other women. But bringing in Giulia, bringing in Stephanie Vacquier and the other individual whose name escapes me, I'm not exposed or familiar with their work. I think her name is Delta, and the only reason I know that is because it's the name of the fucking flight, obviously the airplane company. But bringing in these women who have experience and some buzz, that's a great thing for NXT. So I think Giulia in NXT is going to be a big deal. Love seeing the debut. It wasn't shocking. I think a lot of people expected her to show up in No Mercy and confront Roxanne. She did. She's got that, it's a overused term now. I mentioned it earlier, but she's got that aura about her. They even joked about that on NXT last night. JC Jane had brought it up in that backstage segment. But that Roxanne Perez match is going to kick ass. Roxanne's great. We know Giulia's good. And I haven't even seen probably one full match of hers. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I'm not sure. But I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm the biggest Giulia fan ever. I'm just going off of what I've seen so far, and she seems great. Same thing with Stephanie. I've seen some of her matches through AEW in a Forbidden Door with Mercedes. And I know she's good from that alone, but I'm not going to sit here and say, oh man, it would have been such a bummer if she went to AEW. She would have been an amazing addition to AEW as well. But I think the whole person who's been working with Marigold, AEW has an issue with, Tony Khan had an issue with, and he's kind of slimy. Forgot his name, but he was the one that got fired from Stardom earlier this year. I know the name, but it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it, but I was just about to say it, and I don't remember now. But anyway, I think AEW doesn't really like that guy, and he's kind of slimy, so WWE ended up getting Giulia instead, and she'll be great. And AEW's women's division is pretty great right now as well, so it's pretty great right now all around to be in to be in the women's wrestling scene in WWE, AEW, even TNA, and all these other promotions. They're doing some good stuff right now. But yeah, I think Giulia, the report is that she'll be the face of the NXT women's division, as she should be, and probably one of the biggest faces on that show, as Asuka was, 9 years ago, among other talents since then. At Iwagu91, their first question was, who do you see being the one to end Bryan Danielson's full-time career? I still think they go back to Swerve. I don't know if Swerve beats Hangman again at All Out, but I just feel like Swerve's going to get the match at the Wrestle Dream show. It's in Seattle. I know there's been some talk of Darby Allin getting the championship, but Danielson has said that when he loses that championship, he's done. Now, Darby Allin, we know, is getting the title shot at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite at the end of this month. So if they were to do it in Seattle, then I could see it being, that's possible. I guess here's the thing. I don't want to see another fucking draw. We've seen a lot of draws and time limits and DQs and shit lately in NXT, in AEW. I don't want to see them go to a draw and then run it back at Wrestle Dream. That would be fine, but I don't know about the whole non-finish. How do you work around Darby getting a shot at Grand Slam? Does he come out and say, I want the shot in my hometown at Wrestle Dream? I don't know. But I think having him lose it to Darby at WrestleDream would be cool because it's in Washington. Both guys are from Washington. To me, it's either got to be to Darby, because it's not like Darby can win it at Grand Slam and then they run it back in Seattle or wherever the pay-per-view is. Because Danielson said that he's done when he loses. So whenever he loses, he's done. And I can't imagine he gets so close to WrestleDream and is not on that show in a wrestling capacity. I just don't see him losing at Grand Slam and then not wrestling at WrestleDream like fucking 2 weeks later. So I think he beats Darby at Grand Slam and they either have a rematch at the next pay-per-view or Swerve gets the rematch. I honestly don't really know who else it would be. I don't think it's Jack Perry. I don't think it should be Jack Perry. That match this coming weekend should be good. I don't really hate the match as much as most people. It's not the most exciting option, but it makes sense and it should be a good match. Darby I'd be fine with. He's kind of ready for that next step. Or Swerve. Swerve hasn't beaten Danielson yet. He lost to him on Dynamite about a year ago. He lost to him at All In. To get that win back at WrestleDream in his home state, and also Danielson's home state, would be a great moment as well. His second question, overall, what did you make of Ricochet's WWE run? Honestly, on the whole, all in all, I thought it was a good run. I think it would be remiss to say that it was a missed opportunity or they misused Ricochet. They definitely did misuse Ricochet to a certain extent. He's in a weird position because he had a lot of success in WWE. He was a big deal in NXT. He was only there for about a year, but he was the NXT North American champion for a while. Had a lot of great matches and moments in NXT. When he arrived on the main roster, they obviously didn't know what to do with him. He did quickly win the United States Championship within a couple of months. He only held it for like 3 fucking weeks. But he was United States Champion for a couple of weeks there, for about a month period. And then after that feud dissipated with AJ Styles in the summer of 2019, that was when I would say they fucking just completely ruined Ricochet for at least a little while there. Late 2019, the guy was a jobber. He was on the show doing stuff, but he didn't really win any matches that mattered. Early 2020, yeah, he had that match with Brock and Saudi, which I'm sure he made a lot of money from because it was a Saudi show. The match went all of 90 seconds. He was made to look like a complete fucking loser. I know Brock would murder Ricochet anyway, but they could have had some fun with it, have him fight back, do some fun aerial offense type shit. They didn't even do that. Like, it was such a waste of a match. That belonged on Raw, but Brock doesn't wrestle on Raw. Whatever, man. That was stupid. Was he even at WrestleMania? I don't even remember. I don't even know if he wrestled at WrestleMania 36. I know it was in the PC, but I don't even know if he was on that card at all. And throughout the pandemic, they didn't know what to do with him. He was just the hurt business's bitch there for a while. He had the team with Cedric that went nowhere. Cedric turned on him. 2020 was easily his worst year in WWE. 2021 wasn't much better. He didn't really do much more. I know he was back in NXT for a little while. I think that was 2022, actually. 2021, again, he was doing the 24/7 title stuff. That was fucking stupid. That was terrible. He was doing that in 2020 as well. 2021 was a pretty bad year for Ricochet as well. It wasn't until Triple H took over. I mean, he was also Intercontinental Champion for a couple months in a reign that no one would remember, but he was champion for a couple months there in early 2022. After he lost that, I think Triple H, even though he didn't really give Ricochet any titles, he won a couple tournaments and he was on the show a couple times. He was the Speed Champion. Okay, there was that, I guess. But the thing with Ricochet was that he was featured a lot more under Triple H. Wasn't pushed at a main event level. Ricochet's not really, I'm not even sure if he's really much of a main event guy as far as his mic skills are concerned, although he has improved on that front. Triple H showcased Ricochet a lot in a lot of great matches. It just got to a point where he kind of needed a change of pace. Because even in WWE, unless he turned heel or something like that, which I've said before, what more was there really for him to do? He had challenged for the Intercontinental title, had been involved in those number one contenders matches and shit like that for years. Never really won. He was a guy they would throw out there to make other people look better, like a Dragunov or a Braun Breaker or Dominic Mysterio, whatever, Carmelo Hayes in NXT. But he would always lose whenever it mattered most. He didn't win the tag titles with Braun. They wrestled at Mania. I think they lost that match. I don't think they won at WrestleMania 39. I'm pretty sure. I think the Profits won that match, actually. I could be wrong about that, but, the Braun tag team was kind of short-lived. They unsuccessfully challenged for the tag titles. He challenged for the Intercontinental title again against Gunther in the main event of SmackDown, I think. Lost that, too. He had some great matches. That match with Dragunov is still one of the best Raw matches all year from earlier this year at the show that I was at in Hartford back in May. Fucking phenomenal match. But again, he was not going to win whenever it mattered most. We would see him in Money in the Bank. He would do some cool shit, but he would never fucking win. He can do that shit over in AEW. I'm not even saying that he's going to have all this great success in AEW. He should probably be a champion at some point, whether it be a TNT champion, international champion, whatever. He definitely should be a champion at some point. But at least it's new people for him to work with, new titles to challenge for, new environment, new scenery. I haven't really seen, honestly, and it's only been 2 matches, so, we won't rush into anything here, but nothing I saw from Ricochet at all in or on Dynamite was really all that different from what he was doing in WWE before he left. It was like the same Ricochet. I saw a lot of people saying, and I mean, I was saying this as well because I saw other people saying it. So I was thinking, okay, sure, because people were like, oh yeah, he was kind of working at like 80% or 70%, like a 50% Ricochet. He wasn't really going out there and giving it his all. I'm like, okay, then we'll see what he can do in AEW. And it's only been 2 matches, granted, so far, but it's the same Ricochet, which isn't a bad thing. That Ricochet is great. But like, he won with this random fucking finisher on Dynamite last week, and I'm thinking, well, like, where's the 640? Like, I know his body, he can't do that stuff all the time. Here's the thing, though. The shit that he was doing a decade ago, 1, he shouldn't be doing all the time anyway. And 2, he's older now, and he shouldn't be doing that stuff all the time. Not only just to make it more special, but because his body, he's older, and he doesn't want to get injured and shit like that, obviously. So people expecting him to go out there and do that shit all the fucking time on a regular basis are probably going to be disappointed. I'm not disappointed. It was pretty much what I expected. But I just saw a lot of people saying, oh man, I was even saying let him loose. But so far, it's the same Ricochet. So, which is, again, fine. That's totally fine. If this was the capacity that he was wrestling at in WWE, and it's not as if they were limiting him, he was just limiting himself because he doesn't want to get hurt and he wants to keep it special, or for whatever reason, he can't beat up his body every single fucking week, that's totally fine. But you can't say, oh man, they're going to go out there and just have him let him have 5-star bangers every week. Like, he was having great matches in WWE too. But it was just more a matter of he never really won whatever mattered most because that wasn't the spot they saw for him at that point. And AEW probably won't be that much different, but at least it's different opponents, it's a new scenery. He was in desperate change of pace. And maybe we'll see him back in WWE. I'm sure we will down the road anyway. Your third question, with Odyssey Jones's WWE exit, how do you suppose WWE will progress with Kofi and Xavier's storyline? Yeah, it was crazy. I'll talk more about it tomorrow on WrestleRant Radio with Mr. Marceau. But yeah, Odyssey Jones is indeed gone. I think it is involving domestic abuse, which is just terrible. Between that and like the Nikki Bella thing from last week as well, which was also a domestic abuse incident with that guy, or soon-to-be ex-husband, I would imagine. He was on Dancing with the Stars. He was on the Total Bella show. You would know him if you saw him. Just terrible. Obviously domestic abuse is awful anyway, but the fact we've had 2 incidents with it in pro wrestling related people in the last week. I don't know if the Odyssey Jones thing was recent or if it was like from a while ago and it just came up now. I would hope they would have some sufficient evidence to prove that it was real, and I imagine they do if they just up and fired him. So I don't know. Maybe they'll figure that out. Maybe we'll find out more in due time. I don't know, but still, and it sounds like he was guilty of it. That's awful. So. Good, he should be gone in that case. But if he is gone, the Kofi and Xavier storyline should progress as normal. It should not be interrupted just because Odyssey Jones isn't there. It sucks that he's not there because he was getting over and he was a good fit for that group. But if the guy's a piece of shit, you got to get rid of him, get him off the show. But with Kofi and Xavier turning Xavier either heel or giving him more of an edge, they should continue on with that anyway, even without Odyssey Jones being there. He kind of served his purpose. Kofi brought him in and Xavier got jealous and they can kind of build off of that without Odyssey being there. He isn't the crucial point of that program, but he played his role for as long as he did and they got that point across that Xavier's not happy with Kofi right now. They won their match against the Final Testament, that 6-man tag team match 2 weeks ago. But still, you can kind of sense that underlying tension between Xavier and Kofi, specifically on Xavier's side. So they should continue on as they already were. Have them have tag team matches, maybe they lose. Maybe they challenge the Judgment Day for the tag titles and lose, whatever they want to do. I feel like that would make the most sense, and they can go forward with Xavier going off on his own and not just patching things up quickly and going back to being the goofy New Day that they were previously, because that would probably be the worst slash least interesting route. They could definitely take that storyline. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his content. He does great work. His first question was, so what did you think of Joe Tessitore's first night on Raw commentary? Personally, I think his more sports-oriented voice lends a cool feel to the product. I agree. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. There's certainly some points where he could have showed more energy, enthusiasm during Raw on commentary. But it's clear the passion is there. The product knowledge so far is there. He's been following the product now for at least a while, if not longer. So that's good. It's not like they just threw him out there cold turkey, not knowing what to expect. He's got to sound more organic in that environment. But, I thought he did a good job of calling the Punk and Drew stuff. Like, oh man, you got to be kidding me. Like, you got to show more of that in WWE than you ever would in football or any other sport. And they show enthusiasm, obviously, in those sports. But the shit that we see in WWE, you have to have a much wider range of emotion and stuff like that on commentary. It's a very difficult job, I'm sure, even without Vince being there. With Vince not being there and yelling in your ear, it's still difficult. I mean, look at Kevin Patrick. Vince wasn't there, I don't think, yelling in his ear, but Kevin Patrick didn't work out. He got fired, and they replaced him. So I think Joe will be better than that. I think he's a better fit for commentary than I like Kevin Patrick. I thought his commentary was fine. I think Joe Tessitore, that will be a better play-by-play guy. Definitely better than Adnan Virk. I like Jimmy Smith a lot. I'm bummed they got rid of him. I think the MMA commentary, honestly, that feel is more applicable to WWE than regular sports. That's just me, though. Like, I think of Mike Goldberg, which I think was a rumored thing many, many years ago that WWE wanted him in like 2005 or the early 2010s or whatever, and that didn't work out. That would have been fucking awesome. That never happened, obviously, but still, I think Joe Tessitore so far is so good. We'll see how he improves. I think he will, and I thought he had a good first night. He was pretty impressive out there. Your second question: what are the chances Danielson's championship run ends at WrestleDream, since it will be in his home state? Extremely high, like I just got done talking about a couple minutes ago. I would be very shocked if Danielson were to lose it at All Out or at Grand Slam or even after WrestleDream. I think his career makes the most sense to end in his home state in Washington. And also, I'm sure you'll be there, John. And if you're not, I mean, it's still your home state. That's pretty cool. So I'm sure you're biased as well. But I would agree. I think Danielson should have his last match in that building, in that state, against either Swerve or Darby. If they can come up with a better opponent that makes sense, that's fine. But I think Darby or Swerve make the most sense, at least to me. Next question, non-wrestling related, also from John. I know it's a few weeks away, but what are your thoughts on the new and final Venom movie? Personally, I'm not sure a third was needed after the middling first two. Side note, I'm at 207 movies for 2024. That is crazy. I say that every week, but it's true. As far as the Venom movie, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not excited for it. Is a third Venom movie necessary? No. They set it up in the second one with some loose threads and shit. So, quick story for you. My old college roommate, still one of my best friends to this day, and we've actually seen the last two Venom movies together. And I graduated college before those movies came out, and we see each other a few times a year. But I'll always try to go see these movies with him. This movie comes out around Halloween, so I don't know how we're going to work it out. That's still next month, so we'll figure it out. But I've gone up to visit him in Mass, which is where I went to school, every time one of these movies has come out, because he loves these movies. So, like Venom, Deadpool was another character that when we first started going to college in 2013, he constantly talked about Deadpool and Venom and how he wanted to see movies made with both guys. The fact that Deadpool was made while we were there was cool. We saw that movie together. He loved that. And Venom was a big deal. They actually announced, I don't know if they announced the movie, but they announced that what's his name was playing him. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the name. But the main guy that plays Venom, or Eddie Brock or whatever, he, the whole Bane meme from the beginning of Dark Knight Rises was always a thing. So the fact that he was playing him as Venom or Eddie Brock in that movie, to him was like mind-blowing. I still have the video, or he still has the video, of me telling him that he was going to be playing Eddie Brock in that movie because he was just so blown away by it. And he was excited. It was while we were graduating too, so it kind of worked out perfectly. And I said, listen, I don't care when this movie comes out. I will come visit you to watch that movie when it comes out. And we did. And the second movie too, a few years later, and I'll probably see him to watch this movie in 2024. I love The Last Dance name because I love that Michael Jordan documentary on Netflix a couple years ago. I watched it for the first time a lot later than most people, but I watched it last year. Thought it was great. Loved The Last Dance name. I don't really know what it's even about, honestly. I've seen the trailers. I'm not sure how good it's going to be. The movies are not great, but I enjoyed them. I think they're a lot better than Madam Web or fucking Morbius. Those movies were awful. Venom is like Casablanca compared to those movies. It's still not great on its own, but they're good enough. Is the third one necessary? No. I think it'll be decent. I can't imagine it's bad. I know people didn't like the last two, or at least the second one. The first one was fine. But, I think it'll be decent enough. And we'll see what they do with it. And it would be cool to see, Tom Holland, officially cross over, because they teased at the end of the second one. And they didn't really do anything with it in No Way Home. That was kind of a quick crossover thing. And there was no interaction there between the two main characters, which was unfortunate. But hopefully at some point, we could see that, whether it be with Tom Holland, Spider-Man, or someone else. That's kind of my bigger picture thing, because I assume the Venom character might end with those movies. Maybe they'll bring it over into the MCU, or more Sony movies where he doesn't have his own solo films and shit. I don't know. But yeah, my roommate from college has a big connection with that character, and it's been cool to see his excitement and fascination for the movies, and watch alongside him and learn a lot more about the lore than I knew previously. So yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fun. Next question, or last question actually, from Rosscott1996 from Twitter. The question was, now that we're just over a week removed from All In, what did you think of it compared to last year? I personally feel this year's blew last year's out of the water. Yeah, I talked about this last week here on the show, but I thought this year's show was a lot better than last year's. I really liked All In this year, and honestly, it's obviously a recency bias, but honestly, I think back on it now, I think it might be the best pay-per-view AEW has done all year. And I know you were there, so I'm not just saying that because you were there, Ross. You had a great time. You sent me the video of Nigel coming in. That was fucking awesome. That, to me, was the highlight of the show. And I loved the main event, and Ospreay and MJF and those matches were great. The best part of the show for me was Nigel coming out. I completely fucking forgot about the possibility of Nigel even being in that match. That was awesome. So anyway, they've had a lot of great pay-per-views this year. Dynasty was awesome. Revolution was also a lot of fun. They've had some great shows this year. I think this one was the best one, honestly. Like, it had a lot more storyline significance, bigger crowd, bigger fight feel, great moments, great returns and surprises. It was a lot of fun. Even Alexis, who is not an AEW fan, had watched that show with me, and she's like, wow, that was a great show. And that does not happen often. Usually she either does not watch the rest of the show, or she doesn't watch the show at all, or she doesn't give a fuck. That is with 9 out of 10 times with these AEW pay-per-views. That was not the case with All In. She really enjoyed the show, and that should tell you alone that it was a quality, worthwhile show. And I enjoyed it myself. So we'll see how Full Gear is. We'll see how All Out is this weekend. We'll see how Wrestle Dream is and whatnot. World's End at the end of the year. But I think All In might take the cake in 2024 as AEW's best pay-per-view. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope next year is just as good, even though it will be in a different stadium in Texas and not in London. And that's going to do it, guys, for today's edition of #AskGSM, episode 562, right? Let me just double-check my notes here. It is 562. These numbers go by so quickly, and I still feel like we just did 500 a week ago, and we did it over a year ago. It's crazy to think how quickly we're going through these episodes. Can't wait for episode 1000 in another fucking 5-10 years, whatever it is, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out these shows. I appreciate it, and sending in your great questions. If you want to send in a question, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself, and drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.